At One Young World, we have senior business leaders, we have rock stars, and we also have rock star business leaders. And I would like to welcome on stage to Richard Branson, the rock star business leader. Welcome.
How are you?
So do you want to come and grab a...
Yeah. Morning, everybody. Right.
So you're really lucky, because what we're going to do is Sir Richard has accepted to do a half an hour Q&A with you guys. Now, 1,300 of you cannot get to the microphones, but what we'd like you to do, I'll kick off asking you an initial question, and then we'll open it up to the floor, and Richard will take your questions. And I guess you've got a lot of people in here maybe starting businesses, starting out in their careers. What piece of advice, what's the kind of key piece of advice you would give them based on everything that you've done and experienced at their young ages?
Anyway, it's great pleasure to be here, and great pleasure to meet you all. I met one group from Turkey. Who are the people from Turkey I met at the airport? At the airport, and it was just great to see everybody coming from all over the world here. Well, I don't know, how many of you have actually started businesses? A few. And how many of you would like to start businesses one day? Okay, that's great. So the majority haven't started businesses. And so I think what you need to think is, what is a business? A business is simply coming up with an idea that's going to make a positive, better difference to other people's lives. And if you can come up with such an idea, then you've got a business. And my philosophy is, once you've come up with that idea, screw it, just do it, and get on with it. And the best way of learning how to run a business is by experience. It's just literally, getting your hands dirty, getting out there into the jungle and trying it. And you may not fail, you may not succeed the first time. So if you don't, just pick yourself up, try again and keep trying until you succeed. And make sure you have a lot of fun doing it. I mean, I've had a blast throughout my lifetime, challenging quite a lot of big companies and pulling their tails and having fun, doing it in a fun way. And so, you only live once. Make sure you just have a lot of fun doing it. But anyway, thank you very much for listening, and let's throw it over to questions.
So if you could just quickly introduce yourself, where you're from, and if we can keep the questions as short as possible, we can get more in. So over to you.
Danny Barlow from the United Kingdom. So Richard, as someone with dyslexia, but a passion about politics, I found myself feeling quite inadequate at times, and feeling that my opinion would not be listened to because of my learning difficulty. However, as a member of a coalition which managed to get the UK government to U-turn on its decision to eradicate citizenship from the national curriculum, I felt empowered and happy that those barriers can actually be overturned. As someone, as one of the world's leading entrepreneurs, and also having dyslexia, how did you overcome some of the stigmas of having a learning difficulty, and did you ever find that people wouldn't take you seriously because of it?
Well, when I was young, they hadn't discovered dyslexia, and when they did discover it, why on earth they called it dyslexia, which is one of the most complicated words to remember ever. I don't know. And I just thought, I was left at the back of the class. I had, when I looked at the blackboard, it was a jumble of numbers, and it wasn't relevant to me. And so I left school at 15. And what I soon learned was that if you're dyslexic, you can exceed at some things, and other things you need to delegate. And I think I actually became a really good delegator. And I think for people leading companies, it's really important to be a very good delegator. And actually, being dyslexic helped me, because there were some things I knew I just wasn't good at. I'll tell one funny story. I mean, we built Europe's maybe largest private group of companies. And when I was 50 years old, I was having a board meeting, and I said something like, "Is that good news or bad news?" When somebody gave me some figures, and one of the directors said, "Richard, can you just come outside a minute?" And when I went outside, he said, "You don't know the difference between net and gross, do you?" And I went, "Okay, I don't, you know." So he pulled out a bit of paper, and he penciled in the sea on this paper, and then he put a fishing net in the sea, and he put some fish in the net, and he said, "Right, you know, those fish in the net, that's your profit at the end of the year, and the rest is your turnover." Anyway, the reason I tell that story is you don't actually need to be a mathematician genius to get on in life. I mean, ideally it helps if you can add up. It ideally helps if you can multiply, and it ideally helps if you can subtract. But all the rest, you know, is unless you're going to be a space rocket scientist, that you just don't need it. So common sense, I think, is what you need in life. Being good at dealing with people, looking for the best in people, praising people, a genuine love of people. If you have all these attributes, you can leave things like dyslexia and other learning disabilities behind and not worry about them. And it sounds like you're as confident as anything, and you're going to go a long, long way. Nice to meet you.
Excellent. Is it on?
Hi, Sir Richard Branson. My name is Kristen Zuquette, and I am from the United States. As one of the biggest entrepreneurs in in the entire world, my question is in regard to people with disabilities in developing countries and how they can better move through their towns, especially if they're in dirt roads, specifically for people with physical disabilities. How can you combat that issue that is so overwhelming? Is it collaborating, or is it just getting ideas and researching, or, as you just said, just go and do it?
Well, almost every. One of the positive things about capitalism, and there's lots of negatives, which, in fact, we're going to be talking about with the B team later. But one of the positive things about capitalism is capitalism generally and business generally emerges out of people's bad experiences, people's personal experiences. I went into the airline business originally because I hated the experience of flying on other people's airlines and thought we could do it better. You're in a wheelchair, and there are a lot of other people in wheelchairs, and you'll see situations as you go through life where why can't they make dirt roads better? Why can't wheelchairs go on sand? Why can't they do this? Why can't they do that? You may not be an engineer yourself, but you may well be able to get in touch with engineers who you can persuade. And often, obviously, with disability, some people are willing to do things at a much cheaper price than for people who don't have disability. You may be able to persuade people to buy into your dream, and so I think so I think you're the person who hopefully can address these problems, and people, friends of yours who maybe are also in wheelchairs, and I think it applies to you. Screw it, just do it. See, if you see something, give it a go, and good luck.
Terrific.
Thank you.
So
Sorry, just one. Have you still got the microphone? So do you see any sort of way of designing something that could be better, or?
Well, I know that my scooter that I have right now, a lot of people in developing countries don't even have that.
Right.
And don't even have access to that. So that's something that I would love to somehow be a part of. And then just thinking about new devices that could, instead of fixing infrastructure, but to make devices that, okay, if we can't fix these buildings in these roads, then we can somehow create devices for prosthetic legs or wheelchairs or what have you to help all people with disabilities, regardless of all these huge issues that are still going on, to create devices that can go over these dirt roads, that can go over stairs and things like that, that we don't always need to create all these new buildings and societies. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, I think it'll give you a real purpose in life, and it sounds like you got your challenge. So good luck.
Thank you.
Cheers.
So go to the microphone here at the front, please.
Hello, my name is Nasrullah Zamir. I'm from Afghanistan. The question I have, all these sessions that we see, it's all about encouragement and for initiating something new, how to be entrepreneurs. But in these initiating something new, how to be entrepreneurs, it requires an investment, which we take from bank or being a sponsored or do self-investment. So my question is, how can we avoid risks in entrepreneurship and initiating something new? And how can we create our competitive advantage? And the second question I have, that for...
Let's just do the one, because otherwise we won't get someone else's question in.
Right. I hope I understood your question. I think, yeah, if you have a great idea, trying to get the money to get your ideas started is obviously difficult, and it's one of the entrepreneurial challenge of an entrepreneur. I mean, in my own particular case, as I said, I left school at 15. I wanted to start a magazine, and I didn't have any money. I also didn't want to give away any of the company, and so I managed to sell enough advertising, in advance to pay for the cost of the printing and the paper of the magazine. And then when I started selling records, we'd hand out leaflets outside concert halls, get the money in advance, and then we'd buy the records. So, there are occasions where you can actually self-fund an idea in that kind of way. Family is, there are some people in this room who may have family who've got paid off their mortgages of their house, and they may be willing to buy into the idea. I mean, it's a really good investment, I think, to invest in your children, children's business, and hopefully you'll be able to pay the family back. We've also been to the British government, and this is something you could consider doing to your own governments. And we've said to them, look, why do you give these student loans just to go to university, or student loans to go to college? Why don't you give entrepreneurial loans? And the British government has taken that on board. And so, there are now thousands of young people in England who are getting loans from the government to start businesses. And then companies like Virgin are helping with mentorship and helping them get going. So I think lobbying your own particular governments to look at the British system is a good one, because I think it's unique to Britain, that. And then finally, if you do have a good idea, I mean, obviously, banks are not necessarily the best people to go to. I think venture capitalists, you have a better chance. So try venture capitalists, try friends, just try anybody, and in the end, if your idea is good enough, you will get traction. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to go to the microphone at the back corner there.
Hello, Billy here from London. Hi.
Hello.
So one of the really encouraging things I'll take away from here is that it's fine to make mistakes as long as you learn from them. So what's the biggest mistake you've made in your career, and what have you learned from it?
Well, look, there's no question that if you don't make mistakes, you don't achieve anything, and that's one of the reasons that I generally suggest to people just get out and try things. I mean, you can try tiny little businesses, but just try it and learn from it. I mean, I've made numerous mistakes. I mean, one of the biggest mistakes perhaps I made was I thought I could knock Coca-Cola into number 2 position in the world, and we launched Virgin Cola. And for about 2 years, we were actually outselling Coke and Pepsi in the UK, and we actually started dreaming big. And we got a tank, and we arrived in Times Square in New York, and we pretended to explode the Coca-Cola sign in Times Square. We had pyrodynamics the night before wire it all up, and it looked like it had gone up in flames. This was before 9/11, I hasten to add. Anyway, Coke were a lot bigger than us, and they sent their SWAT teams and their money, and suddenly Virgin Cola disappeared from everywhere. And I think the lesson I learned from that was, if you're going to take on a big, already companies much bigger than you, you've got to be much better. I mean, 2 cans of cola, there's not much difference. Whereas when British Airways tried to put us out of business, our airline was much better than British Airways, and people didn't leave Virgin. They stuck with us. We actually, we took some advice from a friend of mine who said, "Sue the bastards," and we took them to court. We won enormous damages, the biggest damages in history. It was Christmas time, so we split them up. We gave them to all our staff for Christmas, and they were known as the British Airways Christmas bonus. So it was very
Excellent. Microphone at the back, over here.
Kirk Anthony Hamilton. I'm an entrepreneur from Kingston, Jamaica. It's a shame we haven't met. I think we should fix that. I do have a question. The world has changed a lot since you started Virgin. Economies are becoming more complex. People are starting to get into businesses thinking about global partnerships, venture capital, equity and exit strategies before even developing revenue models. Concerns and options that I'm assuming you may not have had when you started out. And you have managed to build a global business that is still privately held. So my question is, what advice, as you are now also an investor, do you have for today's modern entrepreneur?
Well, I love Jamaica, and lovely to meet you. We actually have one of our entrepreneurial schools in Jamaica, and a lot of great entrepreneurs come out of Jamaica. I've forgotten your question.
What advice do you have for today's entrepreneurs, given how the world's changed?
Yeah. Look, I personally think it's a really exciting time to be an entrepreneur today. When I started many years ago, I don't even know if the word entrepreneur was being conceived. People, in my generation, your parents would say, you should go into banking, you should go into accounting. Entrepreneurism was a dirty word. You mustn't dirty your hands trying to make money or building companies. And I think now, it's become very accepted to become an entrepreneur. And actually, it's much easier to become an entrepreneur today. I mean, I know some of you out there struggling to become one won't believe that, but there are sources of funds to do it. You have got the internet. I mean, it's incredibly powerful tool for people to start businesses, without brands from scratch. You have got social media. You've got you've got venture capitalists and so on. And so if you're in Jamaica, or and you can see that there's something that's not being done particularly well in your country, as we were talking to the girl who was in the wheelchair earlier, just try to improve it, and then once you've maybe done that in your own country, you can think the whole of the Caribbean and then global, and good luck. Cheers.
So we've got 5 more minutes of questions, so we've probably got time to take 2, maybe 3 if we're fast.
Tristan Moreau from South Africa. So Richard, you're known as a very big advocate for doing business differently, and I'm sure we'll get into the why with the B team later, but I wanted to know, how have you had to adapt and develop your policy on, being more social, not just focusing on the individualist side of capitalism, as you've had to encounter situations and challenges with your ideas and your policy and all that with social business and that?
Yeah, I think just running a business itself is doing something positive for the world, because your business is only going to succeed if it is making a difference. So that in itself is great and shouldn't be underestimated. But I think, and this is where we'll come on to discussing it with the B team in a few minutes. We've got social workers, we've got politicians, and business is apt to think, well, let them do all the social work in the country. Let them, speak out on issues that they think are important. We'll just get on and make money. Personally, I think that's wrong. I think entrepreneurs and business people see things slightly differently than social workers and politicians. They've had, a lot of experience of looking at issues and ways of addressing issues that politicians and social workers may not be able to do. I'll give you one example. The war on drugs. It's been fought for 60 years. It has failed. And yet politicians insist on continuing on the same failed war on drugs year after year after year after year. Hundreds of thousands of young people are locked up for smoking a joint or whatever, taking drugs all over the world. Their lives often are ruined. They maybe can't travel to America. They can't travel to other countries. It costs the state tons of money, and yet they carry on with the same approach. As a businessman, what I would do is I would look at what's going on in other countries if one of my businesses is failing, and see if there's a better way of doing it. Now, in Portugal, they 10 years ago said nobody will ever go to prison ever again for taking drugs. We will treat drugs as a health problem, not a criminal problem. If you have a drug problem, you come and see a psychiatrist and a social worker. You discuss your problem. If you need to be helped, we'll arrange the help for you. And over the last few years, they've managed to get most of those people who had drug problems off drug problems, and most of those people who used to break and enter into people's homes to get their heroin fixed don't do so anymore. Because they're getting clean needles from the state rather than dirty needles from the street, they're not getting HIV, they're not getting hepatitis C, they're not spreading it. So anyway, as a businessman, I think it's important that I speak out about something like that and try to get governments to change policy, and we'll continue to do so.
Over here.
Hi, Richard. This is Preetham. Yeah, and I still recall the stunt you made at Taj Mahal Hotel a few years back for launch of your airlines in India. India is rated 137 out of 190 countries in ease of doing business. There is a lot of bureaucracy and red tape while we start a new business. Now, I wanted to know from you what suggestion you would give for people from developing and emerging countries where there is no kind of clear ecosystem the way we have in US and UK for startups and for entrepreneurs.
Thank you. You've given me time to think. Well, I'm not sure that the advice I'd give for people from India, it would be any different from the advice I'd give from people from America or Britain. I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs in India who can see opportunities, can see gaps in the market, can see situations where they can dive in and help people, and therefore in the process build a business. India. India needs people like yourself to make sure that that you can start businesses to pull more and more people out of poverty, and to make sure that the government doesn't get it wrong. I mean, it's on a knife edge at the moment. But one way of ensuring that India continues on the same kind of path that I suppose China is economically, is for lots of entrepreneurs like you, just to get out and start businesses, start employing people. I'd love to sit down and talk to you one-to-one further and find out what unique. Tell us, what are the unique problems that India you think has over, say, America or
Can we put the
can you
microphone
speak
on?
a bit closer?
The most important problem is setting up a business. So we need around 1 month to kind of register a company, even more than that. And there is corruption, red tape, and the worst part is the venture capitalist network, the ecosystem to kind of fund young businesses when people don't have their own capital is really missing there. So those are the unique challenges, because you go to California or even in London, you have all of that already set up, and governments are encouraging for new businesses. It's the other way around, I think, in India and most of the developing and emerging economies.
I think the one thing that all of you in this room can go back and try to campaign for in your countries is an end to corruption. I mean, the word corruption comes out in India. The word corruption comes out in too many countries. And when people at the top are corrupt, it just rots society from the top down. If the politicians are being corrupt, then the customs officers think they can be corrupt, and the police officers think they can be corrupt, and small business people suffer, and so on. So, so I hope that as future leaders, you can, almost sign a pledge to make sure that that none of you in this room will ever be corrupt, and.
So, what I'm going to ask you to do, we're going to have some time for more Q&A later on the B-Team session. I want you to be fair, and those of you who are standing up at the microphones, you should be the first people back up, so no one else push in. You know where you are. If you put yourselves in those places, we'll take the questions.
Whoa.
So, here is a cake of Africa with the South African flag on it, because we have another rock star who's a friend of Sir Richard's, whose birthday it is today.
I think if we like to start singing.
Let's get him out. Let's get him out. Hang on. Let's get him out. Bob. Bob. Where is Sir Bob? There'll be much scuttling going on backstage. Are they on their way? Yeah, baby. Okay, Richard, go.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. I just never understood.
The worst surprise ever. No, that's the worst. Now he's got the worst surprise. Anyway, it's lovely, isn't it?
Kate made it. Kate and I made it last night after we...
You made it?
No.
You're entitled.
Right.
Richard and
He'll
Kate.
get his own back, I know.
Richard and Kate were up all night making this beautiful cake. Thank you very much, everybody. What an incredible place to have your birthday in, and what amazing people to share my birthday with. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Blow it out. Let's go.
Have we got a knife? Can everybody get a bit and take home?
We will. We'll cut it into 1,300 pieces.
Wait.
And again, a huge thanks to Bob for everything he's done for us. He's been a counsellor from day one and a huge supporter.
Okay, we're going to take the cake out there, so when you're having a break, you guys will get some of Bob's cake, okay? Yeah?
Now.
Wow. Wow.
Richard, do you want to grab a...
Sir Bob and Sir Richard.